Hello and welcome to another episode of Informed Investor. Over the past couple of episodes, we've been talking about various asset classes, how to invest in them, what kind of returns to expect from them. But today we're going to turn that focus around a little bit to savings. Why is it important? How can you help it work towards you? And what is the critical need for tax saving or saving at this point? My two guests today, Jayant Pai and Archana Dhingarte. Thanks both of you for joining in. Jayant, let me start with you with just the basic premise of the need for doing this for anyone.
Tax savings has been the biggest motivator for most investments worldwide. So many a time governments have initiated a lot of reform through this carrot of tax savings. So I guess it is a good way of getting people onto the right path. Because without that, you may speak ad nauseum about things being good for you, but unless people perceive some tangible benefit, most of them will not take that first step. So tax savings is a good way to get going on some good steps towards financial planning.
Archana, is there a good thumb rule to work with over here? I mean, we talk so much, in terms of what to invest in, what kind of returns to expect, for example, from equities or FDs, etc. But when you look at this whole tax saving phenomenon, is there a quantum that one should look to save while investing XYZ amount?
Actually, the government allows you to invest 1 lakh rupees under the Section 80C. These investments are eligible for tax saving. There is a thumb rule, basically, even as Jayant mentioned, that it should be linked to your financial goals. So whether you choose equity or debt, it should be purely linked to your financial goals so that you will stay invested. You will not wait that money to come back and again rotate into the same kind of the investments, but people will keep on doing this exercise throughout their life when they stick to their goals, basically.
Okay, we'll talk in more detail about the various forms you can do that, Archana, but first one quick comment from you on what kind of changes the direct tax code will have on someone's savings plan or someone's investment plan.
Basically, over here, whatever they invest under the Section 80C, if they invest into some kind of the equity investments, equity linked saving schemes, which is called ELSs, by the mutual funds, all the dividends which they earn will be tax free even after 1 year. Of course, there is a lock-in period of the 3 years for the equity investments, which is ELSs. All these investments are also free from the capital gain. But when they invest into the debt schemes like 5 years post office saving plans or 5 years bank deposits, all these debt, whatever interest which they earn will be taxable. When they invest into the LICs, basically they take their insurance plans, that money which is coming on the maturity will be tax free in the hands of the investors.
Jayant, let's pick it up with the debt schemes first. What are the debt instruments available right now for a retail or a normal investor to invest in, and what kind of potential savings does that throw up?
See, within the umbrella of Section 80C, there is Public Provident Fund. There is also the Employee Provident Fund. In case you are eligible, that will depend on whether employer is a part of the scheme or not. There is also there are 5-year tax saving bank deposits. Other than that, there are the post office saving schemes, which are the NSC or the post office monthly income schemes. So all these are under the aegis of 80C. In most of these are fixed return instruments. For example, in PPF, you will get an interest of around 8% per annum, which is recalibrated every year. In a post office saving schemes, the rate may change, but it has remained stagnant at around 8% for the past few years. Similarly, the tax saving deposits, the banks will keep recalibrating the rates based on the scenario. Currently, they are offering around 9.5 to 10% for a 5-year deposit. So these are some of the options within the debt arena.
Just to focus on FDs for a little bit, and how lucrative is this given the way rates are moving currently and the fact that for senior citizens actually the rate is even higher in terms of a return on an FD? Is that slowly becoming the preferred option, at least for this year or the next one?
Yeah, it is, but then you have to understand that when you are choosing a tax saving FD, you are locking it for 5 years. So if you are, and usually you are not allowed to prematurely terminate these policies, these deposits. because there are certain court rulings which prevent ELSS schemes from prematurely being terminated. So I am presuming the same thing will extend to deposits too. So in case you really have liquidity which you can spare for 5 years, only then you should choose this. And of course beyond that, it's a call on interest rates. I mean, if you feel that the compensation that you're getting in terms of locking your liquidity for 5 years is worth it, then you should go in for it. Yeah.
Archana, you want to come in on that? At this point in time, between a debt equity mix, would you say it is preferable to go towards greater debt exposure in terms of investment or saving?
It depends upon the age of the investor and why is he choosing that. I prefer equity would be the good option because you have the liquidity after 3 years, whereas your money gets locked in debt instrument for minimum 5 years, because no debt instrument is below 5 years. PPF is in PPF your money gets locked for 15 years. Of course you have a withdrawal facility available there, but you have to choose according to your goals again.
There is one space that's slowly coming back into fashion, Archana, and it wasn't for a couple of years, the infra bonds. What would you recommend to be the approach over there?
Infra bonds are again, it falls under the debt instrument. It gives you a fixed rate of return which has varied in this year from 7%, 7.5% to about 9.5% at the end of the year. The rate keeps on changing. That interest is taxable and they are offering it for 5 years period, 10 years period, or also the 7 years period. People are blocking their money, those who feel that they don't need the money for a short while and the interest rates looks attractive, they are locking the money into infra bonds for also 10 years.
Okay, let's take a break on that note. Just discuss some of the debt saving instruments, the debt instruments that can help you save. When we come back, we'll talk about all these equity instruments and which one works best given your savings profile. We'll be back with that. Welcome back. Still watching Informed Investor, and this is our tax saving special. We were talking about a couple of debt instruments, some of them of course compulsory like EPF, PPF, but let's focus now on the equity space. Jayant, before we start talking about that, what kind of mental makeup should one have while getting exposure to equity linked saving instruments, whichever form they may be?
Yeah, basically you should be attuned to equity. So that's the first thing. But even otherwise, what I feel is that sometimes people are very hesitant towards equity. But if you throw in the tax saving angle, people are willing to nibble. So usually financial planners suggest balanced funds as the means of entering equity markets. But if not that, even these equity linked saving schemes have proved, in the past that people who are taking their first steps within the equity space, they are comfortable choosing this as a product.
Okay, let's pick them up one by one then. The first one, the one which has been much maligned over the last year or so, the ULIPs. Archana, how would you describe ULIPs as a saving instrument, and has it lost some of its sheen over the last 12 months?
Actually, ULIPs can be considered as an equity, good way of investing into the equity if your horizon is more than 5 years. But ULIP is sold wrongly basically by the agents to earn more commissions. That should not be the focus, but ULIPs in equity have delivered the return more than 12% who have stayed invested for more than 5 years into the ULIPs by the good companies. The major players into this category are ICICI, HDFC, Birla and all these people. So it can be chosen only if you know that the money has to stay for more than 10 years, then they definitely give you the good returns along with the insurance cover which they are offering.
Jayant, is the new form and structure of the ULIPs actually more investor friendly right now, and which ones would you recommend from there?
It is certainly more investor friendly in the sense that the agent will have a longer term commitment towards you, since the commission is spread equally over 5 years. But and plus there is this norm of gross yield and net yield, which is also supposedly in favor of the policy holders. However, I think going ahead, once DTC is implemented, again we could see a sea change in the popularity of these products, since it has been stipulated that the policy should offer you a minimum cover of 20 times your premium in order to get the tax benefits. So that will imply that these ULIPs which are already quite expensive, I mean they will be out of reach for most people if they want a tax benefit. So I think going ahead, I think it's going to be term policies which are more in vogue from the tax saving angle. ULIPs are okay if you want that equity exposure, but I believe that you can get a much cheaper exposure through mutual funds and a combination of term and mutual funds.
Which brings us to the very, very active ELSS schemes, Jayant. First, what do they mean? What kind of lock-in do they have, and how does that work?
ELSS is a product which has the lowest lock-in amongst all the tax saving instruments. It has a lock-in of 3 years only. And other than that, there is really no difference between that and a normal diversified equity fund. So all the pros and cons of an equity fund will be present in this scheme. And basically this belief that that these are close-ended products and so they offer better returns, that myth has been exploded recently. So many of these funds are not really been managed, they have not managed to outperform regular equity funds. Anyway, it's a sunset thing because once section 66 is implemented next year, I mean if it is going to be implemented in this form that they have outlined, then ELSS will cease to be a tax saving product in the future.
Archana, you agree it may not be the best or the most lucrative form of savings?
ELSS, yes, because here the people can invest by the SIP mode, systematic investment mode. So that's the way they can get the benefit of cost averaging also. And those who are the first time investors into the equity market, they can basically get into the equity by ELSS schemes. And it also gives good returns as compared to the debt, which is tax free also.
What would you say is the best form of equity exposure to take in that case, Archana? I mean, between the ULIPs, between just pure mutual funds, a vanilla mutual fund, or some other instrument?
Direct tax code will be implemented sometime later in this year. So we have to wait for the direct tax code to be published and to be to come in front of the people. But according to what it is said, like ELSS scheme will go away. But still the people have the facility to invest into the equity by way of NPS, that is a national pension scheme introduced by the government, and that scheme also can give you the exposure into equity, debt, balance, whatever you wish to. So you still have that option open to, and the amount available, how much is the limit and all that will be available once it is published.
Sure. Jen, people tend to take equity exposure more based on what the equity market is doing rather than what is the most prudent time in their investment plan to be going about and putting in that money. What would you recommend in terms of a time horizon while taking equity exposure, and when should you look to do it?
I mean, as all the so-called market experts say, that market timing is virtually impossible, but yet all of us try our luck in that and fail. So that's what we advocate. I mean, out of my own personal experience and even looking at the experience of others, that I think SIP is the best mode. It may not be a foolproof mode, but certainly it takes the guesswork out of it, and the discipline increases. And other than that, I think at least a 5 to 6 year horizon is important, because that's usually the time of one up and down cycle which we have observed in India. So I think 5 to 6 years is the thumb rule, and I think I'll stick to that only.
Okay, it's time for another break. When we come back, let's line out the do's and don'ts with our guests in terms of tax saving and investment. Welcome back. You're still watching Informed Investor, and we're discussing how to go about saving your well-earned returns from any asset class at all. So Archana, let me start with you. What would you line out as the key do's or don'ts while looking at tax saving, and indeed the kind of returns you expect to get from that saving?
Do look at the horizon of the plan, how many years your money will be locked, and whether are you going to use it for certain, suppose for for certain reason, say you invest it for your child's education, then it is good that you invest into an ELSS plan and continue doing it, not only for 3 years horizon when the lock-in period gets over, but you should keep it as a regular activity and link it to the, every investment should be linked to a particular kind of the goal, let it be child's education, marriage or retirement. Accordingly you should choose. You should also consider the risk involved into it. Like equities definitely has given good returns, around 12 to 15 returns in the longer period, but it is also risky thing. So if you understand and stay invested by understanding it, then there is no problem in that. Then also, whether the returns which are going to come to you, are they going to be taxable, and if they are going to be taxable, what is ultimate yield in your hand, that should be calculated beforehand.
Jayant, you want to add to that? What would your list look like?
Yeah, first thing is to integrate tax saving with your overall asset allocation, because if you have decided to put in say 60% in equities, then look at how much you want to put it in ELSS rather than the other way around. Second is that don't go overboard with tax saving, because I've seen many people, they'll invest beyond the mandated limits. So that is pointless. For example, if there is a limit of 1 lakh under ATC, many people go beyond and invest 1.5 lakh or something. So the balance is unnecessarily locked and it doesn't give you the desired benefit. Third is that there are several expenditures which you can integrate for tax saving. So it's not only investments. For example, your school fees up to 2 children and even your interest on home loan. There are several expenditures which you should try and integrate to get better benefits and not just rely on investing. And finally, use the, do not underutilize the limits also. For example, if you are allowed a limit of say 15,000 for yourself and 15,000 additionally for your parents under section 80D, you should try and go granular and see to it that you utilize the maximum benefit, so that otherwise people go overboard on one section and they underutilize the other sections. So that should be avoided.
Will there or should there be a big switch in terms of how to approach saving though, Jayant, once the direct tax code comes into place?
Yeah, unfortunately I think there is a greater stress being laid on debt instruments, especially the government guaranteed instruments. So okay, go ahead with it. Whatever limits have been prescribed, I think you should try and maximize those. But at the same time, even investing in a normal open-ended fund, then that also will meet your needs. So just because the ELSS has been discontinued, it doesn't mean that you should stop investing in equity or something. So no drastic changes. Just first let us wait for the changes and then see how to mold our approach.
Thanks both of you for joining in with your thoughts today. That's tax saving. We've been talking so much about the asset classes to look for returns, but it's important also to step back and allocate some of that money towards saving.
While there is no escaping from taxes, we can at least ensure that we do our tax planning well in advance to make the most of the exemptions and to avoid hasty decisions that may end up hurting rather than helping. As far as tax-saving instruments are concerned, most schemes provide exposure to the debt side and have an extremely long horizon. For equity exposure, one can opt for equity-linked saving schemes or ELSS, which provides the best returns amongst tax-saving schemes. ELSS schemes have a 3-year lock-in and can give returns of anywhere between 12 and 18%. Bank term deposits which are over 5 years and up to 1 lakh rupees are allowed exemption under section 80C. However, interest for the amount deposited is taxable. Salaried individuals are compulsorily required to contribute 12% of basic pay to the Employee Provident Fund or EPF. This amount is deducted by the employers from one's salary. EPF can give returns of about 8.5%. Some of the other options include National Savings Certificate and Kisan Vikas Patra. The advantages of these schemes include short-term maturity and guaranteed returns. Also, there is no upper limit on the maximum amount that can be invested in a year. However, the interest earned is taxable. Investors must now prepare to tackle the direct tax code that would be implemented from April next year. For equity schemes, the tax benefits under Section 80C for ELSS would be phased out with the introduction of the DTC. However, existing funds would be able to claim exemptions. In case of debt exposures, the instruments eligible for tax deduction have been trimmed. Bank deposits and NSC and infra bonds would cease to enjoy special treatment after the implementation of the direct tax code. Apart from these savings instruments, one must remember certain other taxable instruments as well. For those living in rented houses, the entire rent is not exempted from tax, but it is only the HRA or house rent allowance allowed by your employer that is exempted. While we are all aware of Section 80C, we often forget that this 1 lakh limit also encompasses school and college tuition fees for your children, as well as the repayment of the principal amount of your home loan. So make use of these tips wisely and ensure that you don't leave your tax planning to the last minute.
I hope this lined out a few options for you. From the entire team, goodbye. Thanks for watching.